Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Apollo Hospital. I'm Dr. Ashwin Tamankar. I'm a consultant in neuro-oncology and robotic surgery at Apollo Hospitals, Navi Mumbai. So the topic for today's discussion we have kept as testicular cancer because the month of April is considered to be the awareness month for testicular cancer. Before we jump into testicular cancer discussion, I just wish and pray that all of you are keeping safe, and I wish the best for your health. So let's focus our discussion on testicular cancers today. Coming to the incidence and prevalence, obviously it is generally it is the occurrence of the incidence of this particular cancer is relatively less than any other urological cancer. So it amounts to about 5% of urological cancers and 1% of adult neoplasms. So Western literature, it would vary. The incidence would vary between 3 to 10 new cases per 100,000 population a year. In Western countries, the incidence is slowly rising. In India, somehow the incidence is fortunately to the tune of up to 1 or even less than 1 per 100,000 population per year. So epidemiology wise, generally it's a disease which comes to one particular testis, but bilateral occurrences are common and they happen to the tune of 1 to 2%. Most common histology or most common type of it is called germ cell tumor. It forms about 90-95% of the testicular tumors. The peak incidence is at within third to fourth decade. There are two major varieties of germ cell tumors. One is called seminomatous germ cell tumor and another is non-seminomatous germ cell tumor. So non-seminomatous tumor would have incidence, peak incidence in the third decade, and seminomatous will have the incidence a bit later in the fourth decade of the life. It is relatively one of the testicular cancer is relatively one of the most common cancers amongst the age group of 15 to 34 in adult population. So the histological classification broadly goes as germ cell tumors, then germ cell tumors with some sex cord stromal tumors and some miscellaneous tumors. Like I said, broadly, germ cell tumors would be divided into seminomatous and non-seminomatous. There is a wide gamut under the umbrella of non-seminomatous tumors, which includes embryonal carcinomas, yolk sac tumors, or trophoblastic teratomas and mixed germ cell tumors as well. So predisposing factors, undescended testes since birth is one of the most important relevant risk factor for occurrence of testicular tumor in life. So whenever there is a history of undescended testes since birth, or even if the surgery has been done for the redeposition of the testis from the abdominal location to the testicular normal location in the scrotum, the incidence of the cancer in these individuals is quite higher than the general population. Family history of testicular cancer is another risk factor. Your risk goes high potentially. Second important thing is whenever someone has a testicular cancer on one particular testis, the incidence of having a cancer on the opposite testis increases. That's the another third risk factor. And there are certain entities called testicular dysgenesis syndromes which have infertility as a background, or there are some other features related to development of the male genital organs. These are the individuals who have a little higher propensity to acquire testicular cancer in their life. So presentation, generally it's a painless, slowly growing lump in one or two, in one unilateral majority of the times, one testis. It may have formed a layer of fluid around the testis. So in general, it may just enlarge slowly as a uniform growth. You may not appreciate the lump, but enlargement in the scrotum may be felt, or a heaviness in the scrotum may be felt. It also may give some discomfort in the testis of the scrotum. Rarely in a late stage it goes, the tumor cells go to the abdomen, they go to the neck, they go to they go to the lungs and liver. So these, depending upon the involvement, you may have some symptoms out of these in the late stages of cancer. So broadly speaking about the stages, early type of stage will be limited to the testicle. The second stage, where the cancer cells they have a high affinity to go to the nodes which are sitting right next to the major vessels in the abdomen, which is the area is called retroperitoneum. There is a scientific reason for it, because the testis ideally it is an intra-abdominal organ by birth. Whenever it is formed, generally it is formed in the retroperitoneum, and then it slowly comes down along the track and goes into the scrotum after the birth. So the retroperitoneum, that's the reason why the retroperitoneal nodes have a first are the first level of spread from the testicular cancer, and that will be stage 2. And stage 3 obviously will be beyond that, either involvement of lungs or liver or some neck nodes or some other areas will be considered as a stage 3 testicular cancer. So how do we diagnose a patient with testicular cancer? Obviously, examination is the most important and the gold standard. We are based upon the examination and some battery of blood tests, which have essentially which are a test of 3 tumor markers for testicular cancer named as AFP, beta hCG, and LDH. We can confirm the diagnosis clinically, and we may not go for any other investigations to prove the diagnosis. Ultrasound is a desirable investigation for picking up a tumor in that particular location, but ultrasound is more important to pick up any early type of changes in the opposite testicle in the same setting. That's why ultrasound is required as a protocol for evaluation. CT scan of the abdomen is required for ruling out spread in the abdomen as well as ruling out spread in the chest. We need to have a CT chest. There is no role of biopsy in the testicular tumors. Biopsy gives a lot of trouble because biopsy alters the lymphatic spread, biopsy alters the prognosis. So these are the things which need to be looked into carefully. Whenever there is a suspicion of testicular tumor, biopsy should not be done at all. Prognosis wise, it is a very friendly sort of cancer, I should say, but obviously it comes with a good curative modality of intent. In the figure which is depicted here, broadly speaking, these are 2 types of cancer, seminomatous and non-seminomatous. So the prognosis of both the cancers is relatively quite good. In fact, these numbers, the one which are presented on the left side of the table, these numbers are for advanced stage of testicular cancer. So the prognosis or the cure rate or the survival rates are beyond 90-95% on majority of the occurrence with adequate curative modalities. So let's focus a bit on the management front. Surgery obviously stands as the first thing for testicular tumor because we need to take out the testicle. It is called as high inguinal orchectomy. It is not done through the lower side or near the scrotum, but it is done from the incision where similar incision as of hernia surgery, I should say, because we need to take out not just testicle but the entire structures coming out of the testicle until the inguinal canal or the canal which is sitting at the lower part of the tummy. So it is called as high inguinal orchectomy. Pathologist does confirm that as on the histopathological diagnosis about the tumor. They classify they identify the tumor cells, they score the tumor, they give us a prognosticating factors in that pathology. So that is the gamut of high inguinal orchectomy. What's the role of testis sparing surgery? So testis sparing surgery, though it is not commonly performed, there is a recent pick up in the testis sparing procedures, especially for tumors which are located on one of the poles of the testicle, where we can just scoop off that particular tumor and spare the testis. Especially it is preferred in an individual who has only one single functioning testicle, or in an individual who has previously undergone surgery for opposite testicle and there is another incidence of tumor in the ipsilateral remaining testicle. Whenever we have both the functioning testis, the role of testis sparing surgery is at the moment debatable, though it is explored in a younger individual who desires to preserve the testicle, understanding a little possibility of or a little risk of testicle remaining inside the body, leading to some recurrences at later juncture. Third surgery, which is most important thing which we are going to talk about today, is retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. Like I said, testicular tumor has affinity to go to the retroperitoneal nodes. So whenever we have these nodes coming up, depending upon the stage, depending upon the response to the chemotherapy, if it is required upfront, the surgery to the retroperitoneal nodes is required. It's a major surgery. We have to clear all the lymphatic channels near the major vessels. We have to take the entire tissue out, starting from the mid level of the abdomen to the entire lower level of the abdomen. It's a kind of major surgery done generally in a conventional open manner, though there is a role of robotic surgery in this, which is slowly getting picked up. But conventionally it is done in an open conventional manner, and it's a major surgery, but the results of the surgery are excellent. The curative rates of this surgery are to the tune of 90-95%. So the retroperitoneal lymph node dissection is a major has a major role to play in a management of a tumor of a testicle which has gone to the retroperitoneum. Coming to the role of radiation, the seminomatous tumors which we talked about have a very high of sensitivity, or I should say they are quite radiosensitive. So whenever there is a tumor or seminoma in the testicle and a tumor in the or a enlarged node in the retroperitoneum up to certain size, radiation can always be explored as an opportunity for cure, and majority of these tumors do respond to radiation. So what's about chemotherapy? Chemotherapy has a very pivotal role in management of testicular tumors. In a stage where the tumor markers are enlarged, or in a stage where the size of the tumor in the retroperitoneum or nodal burden in the retroperitoneum is quite high, the first thing which is done after the testicle removal is chemotherapy. Depending upon the response to the chemotherapy, we have to take further decisions whether we need some surgery or we just need regular surveillance or regular monitoring to the patient. So chemotherapy generally has a very good role in testicular tumors, both for seminomatous as well as non-seminomatous, depending upon the indications, with very high cure rates. So fertility preservation aspects I would want to talk about today, because the once one of the testicle comes out of the body, the opposite testicle would be enough to take care of both the functional aspects of semen production and the hormonal aspects of testosterone production. So in a younger individual who is yet to complete the family, whenever there is a diagnosis of testicular tumor, our first job is to preserve his fertility, by which I mean we need to have semen cryopreservation. We can preserve the sperms for few years to many years depending upon the availability, and that can be utilized in case of requirement for any future subsequent utilization in case of any infertility issues. So these are the things. Obviously, we do it at Apollo at regular intervals. The semen cryopreservation facilities we have available at Apollo. And if you have understood the talk well, it's a multidisciplinary team approach. We call it disease management group, which involves uro-oncologist, which involves radiation guys, which involves medical oncologist, uropathologist, radiologist, and nuclear physicist to scan the patient. So it's a comprehensive effort done by a dedicated team for a better good of the patient. So at Apollo, we have center of excellence for everything, including surgical armamentarium. We have robotic systems. We do laparoscopic surgeries. We have high-end machines for radiation, high-end machines for PET scan, and it's a JCI accredited hospital. So this is the last thing which I want to talk about, was prevention and early detection. Obviously, prevention and early detection is important for any cancer. Testicular cancer, like breast cancer, obviously can be easily picked up in an early stage if we are more sensitive towards it, by which I mean if someone knows about the modality or the mode of presentation of the tube of testicular cancer, which we talked about already in the previous discussion, then they can take care, or they can ensure that they can pick up these cancers themselves in early stage. Basically what we need to do is, this is called as testicular self-examination. So you have to kind of feel or palpate the testicle on regular intervals, probably at the time of bath. You have to hold the testicle between the thumb and the pulp of the finger, feel for any abnormality, feel for any nodularity, feel for any abnormal areas where the firmness is more towards a hard side than the soft side. So these are all things which one should do as a part of testicular self-examination, and any subtle abnormality should not hold you back, and you should approach the doctor as early as possible. So that is one way to pick up these cancers at a very early stage. The diagram depicts about the ways to do testicular self-examination, and I think that's it for today. In general, if I can summarize, testicular cancer are relatively rare cancers, but they do have, we do encounter these patients, especially in a tertiary referral center like us at Apollo Hospital. The cure rates of these cancers are very good, to the tune of 95% at 5 years, with the good intent of treatment and modalities, including surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. The opportunity for us to cure the patient is quite high. The testicular self-examination is one good thing one can understand. in details and keep it as a regular thing in their routine practice to pick up early cancers of the testicle so as to reach hospital early for any further required treatment. Thank you so much. Take care and stay at home. This resting time for everyone in this pandemic. Obviously, we all need to be careful about the pandemic, and hopefully, we should be getting out of this soon. Thank you.